Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here doing my Throwback Thursday review. This time I am doing The Warriors. Very awesome freaking movie. Like, I love this movie. It's actually been a minute since I've seen it. Excuse me, unfortunately I wasn't able to actually sit down and watch this movie before doing the review. But I was doing a double feature this week. I just did my review for the first Evil Dead film, so definitely check that out if you guys are interested. I have a link in the description. But The Warriors, The Warriors is a simple movie, and it's weird. It's like, I remember a lot from The Warriors. It's one of those movies where, I mean, admittedly, it's not that much to remember. They go from point A to point B. Oh, this guy dies, we're blamed, and then we go from point B back to point A. So it's kind of easy to remember because you remember, some of the, pretty much all the moments that you remember. It's like, okay, well, we see this person being killed, and then we basically see only a couple of groups really fight them. They get chased by quite a few, and we see a ton, especially the actual openings of the movie. We see every different gang almost, and that's really awesome. It is one of my favorite movie openings for sure. I love the music from The Warriors. It's always been interesting. Just that opening theme I've really loved, and seeing all the characters, all the different gangs and all their outfits. I just think of man, how much time did it take for them to make, they gotta make 5 jackets for these dudes with shiny purple jackets with gold lettering and crap, and then it was probably a little bit easier for the Baseball Furies, but then it's alright, well, you get a bunch of baseball costumes, but then you gotta do a buttload of makeup, because almost all of the Baseball Furies have makeup and stuff. And it's just man, they have to do a bunch of that. Even the Warriors themselves, everyone has custom vests and stuff, and I would assume they have to be different sizes for, the different actors and stuff. And it's just man, that's very interesting, just the design. Some were a bit easier. I can't even remember the group, but the group where they actually meet the woman, they just had green shirts and pants. They weren't, obviously, they're such a crappy group, they didn't even give them cool outfits. So I never considered that. They may have been on purpose, I don't really know, but I never considered that before. They're such a, irrelevant group that they didn't even have cool outfits or anything, significant. Everyone stood out, even if it was something simple. You have basically a whole biker gang. It's okay, there are bikers, all over the world, but still, that stands out. You have a biker gang, you have the Baseball Furies, you have the Warriors, they all have their vests, you have the punks and stuff like that. Actually, they were kind of a biker, punk sort of thing, of course, but it's okay. And then you have these dudes, and I really wish I could remember their names now, because like I said, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't think of them. But it's they just had green shirts and some pants, and that was it. They're the only role they truly had was that they were going to let the Warriors pass through. It was no big deal. And then once again, the woman comes along, and it's odd that I can't remember her name, but I remember the Warriors. I remember, Swan, Ajax, Rembrandt, Cowboy, Cochise. So I remember their names. I just can't remember hers, even though she's basically the reason that them fighting against the Warriors, that random team, she's the reason that happens. Oh, you're just gonna let them pass, huh? And then it's she kicks up this whole big set of drama for that sequence in the film. But I've always loved this movie. It was a classic. Of course, I'm born in the 90s, so it was a classic, of course, by the time I'd seen it. But it has to be the most referenced movie I've ever heard my parents talk about. At least my dad. My dad, there was 2 things. It was stay on target and a multitude of things really from the Warriors. You hear the Warriors in anything. Come Out and Play is done in music, TV, movies, every single thing. Somewhere along the line, you have heard something from the Warriors. Can You Dig It? That was the #1 thing for sure from my dad, was Can You Dig It? But you just hear so many things from the Warriors, and it's insane. When I finally saw the movie, I was just holy crap, this is where that came from. Where my dad, for I don't think I saw it until I was in I was definitely in my teens. I don't think I saw it until I was maybe 13 or 14, maybe possibly 15. And I heard, started screaming Can You Dig It? And I was that's where that came from. And then, that was the beginning of the movie, but I was already excited for it. Mostly because, by the time I'd seen the movie, I actually knew the story. I knew the whole movie, because The Warriors has a video game that's done by Rockstar. For anyone who's not in the games, Rockstar is the company that does the Grand Theft Auto games. So if you like Grand Theft Auto, that same company made a full game on the Warriors movie. So before I'd ever seen the movie, I'd actually played through the entire game, because it was always talked about, like I said, a million freaking times. Can you dig it? That's all I would ever hear. Never knew what it was from. Never thought to ask. It was just so when my dad sings, he says, "Can you dig it?" all the time. I know it's from something. I always knew, because he would say it so much. I was I know that that's from something. I just never, for whatever reason, it just never occurred to me to ask, what's that really from? What is that really from? So it never happened. And I don't really know what it was that made me want the video game, but for whatever reason, I wanted the video game. I guess, I saw a trailer or whatever, it looked cool, and I love the game. It's one of the games that I always wish, like I had a bunch of games that were stolen from my PS2, and that's one of the games I always think about because I'm like, man, I would love for that game to be remade or just something. And that's what I always go back to, is like, I love that game. And I played through that whole game, learned the whole story of the movie, and then that's when I ended up finally watching the movie. And I still loved it. I was like, just watching the movie was like, I literally played through this myself, through the game. I controlled these same characters I'm watching, and it was still perfect. I was like, I don't care. It was like just seeing the movie the second time, but in a whole new way, because it was, of course, I was playing the game version, and then you see the actual actors and stuff, and, excuse me, it was just like, wow, this is, something about it was just like brand new all over again. And it was so good. It's such a good freaking movie. And I love the action in it. Like, they have, it's one of those odd movies where it's like they have great action set pieces, but ultimately it comes down to just the story that you really think about. Like, when people talk about it, it's like, the two most famous things really are the same. It's Can You Dig It, and then Cyrus being killed, and then, Warriors come out to play, and, he's doing the stuff with the pop bottles. Or the soda bottles, depends on how you speak. It was California, I believe. Or, no, it was New York. It was Coney Island, I think. I was just thinking, like, the ending scene there on the beach, and, like, for some reason that instantly made me think California. But just going through that film, like, those are, like, probably the two most iconic moments. But whenever I think of the movie, the two scenes that really come to mind, there are probably, like, three scenes that really catch my attention all the time as far as, like, action happening throughout the film. One is definitely the baseball Furies chase, because every time I see that, I'm like, Jesus, they ran so much in this. Like, the whole movie is just like, you just train based on how much they run, and you'll be in shape in like 2 minutes, because they run so much in that film is insane. But the scene when they're being chased by the baseball Furies, because there's just a buttload of them, it's just like, oh crap, and they just get chased, and it's like, the baseball Furies are like the gang that really shows up the most, or at least as far as like in mass, outside of Cyrus's group in the beginning, when, of course, they're actually at like this giant meeting, and things kind of go crazy. You see like all of them, but the baseball Furies is just like, there's like 20 of those dudes, like 30 almost, and it's just a big chunk of dudes chasing after like 7 people. And I don't think it was even 7 by that point, because they were already losing people left and right, and that was another thing about the film. But that's one of the sequences that always catches my attention. The other is definitely the subway scene, because I did not expect them to kill a character the way that they did, because they kill a couple of the characters off. Of course, you have the very beginning, they lose like their leader right off the top, because it's like, oh, the Warriors did it. And it's like, hey, we didn't do it. And he just gets martial arts, like they're just beating him with their elbows, and he dies. So he's gone. And then it goes to the subway. It was, I believe, the second time they actually lost somebody, and that was Cowboy, I remember. And it just always stuck in my head, because I was like, holy crap, they was fighting with the cop. They do, it's like they do a little edit, and he throws him off on the train track, and he gets hit by a train and killed. And that was like the first time I'd ever seen that, and it was like, holy crap, that was, for some reason, that was like really intense to me, because it wasn't like, oh, I kind of expected that or anything. This is like a gang movie where they're just fighting people left and right, and they get into a fight with the cops, and he throws them onto the train tracks, and he gets killed. And of course, they don't show it's just like the quick edit, and it's him getting hit by the train. But I always remember that sequence, and that's like number 2. And number 3 is definitely my favorite part of the whole movie. The scene when they fight, like the roller derby guys inside the subway bathroom, that's my favorite sequence out of that entire film. Like, I love that fight sequence, because they're just going crazy. It's like they get into all the stalls and stuff, and the guys just, they kind of slowly follow them in, because they've been following them through the station. So it's like, alright, well, let's go into the bathroom, let's get this over with. They get in the stalls, they kind of all like stand up on the toilets and stuff, and then they just like burst through the doors, and it's just all out chaos. They're like picking up weapons and hitting each other. I can't even remember who the heck it was. I think it was one of the Warriors, and they just get picked up and like thrown sideways into the mirrors and stuff, and people are just getting like their head slammed into walls, and it was just nuts. And it was like, I always loved that fight sequence. Those are like the 3 moments to me that always really stick out. But I love that fight sequence when they're in the bathroom. I don't think I've ever seen a bathroom action sequence that was as cool as that. Like, even some of the stuff I've seen, because they have like, stuff from, video games, like James Bond movies, and I think in the, like Casino Royale, I think he fights a dude in the bathroom. I was like, that's just, like, it's cool, but it just doesn't feel the same as the Warriors, where it's 2 gangs fighting in the freaking bathroom, and it's just intense, and they're slamming each other into mirrors and into, you know, the tiles, and back into the stalls. They're, you know, getting swarmed and knocking the wall sideways on each other and stuff, and it's just a chaotic fight. And I love that sequence. I've always loved that sequence. It's my favorite part of the whole movie. And it just stays crazy the whole way through. They're just getting chased piece by piece, gang by gang. And you have like the radio announcer where she's playing the music and stuff. I love the music for this movie as well. Not just the opening theme, but the music they play I've always really loved. And it's just good. It all culminates down to the most famous part, of course, you know, Warriors come out and play, and it's freaking good. And it's such a simple ending too. It's just really well done, and it's like, you know, we get to the end, and you have like these guys who have been chased literally throughout the night by all these different gangs just because this one dude wanted to kill Cyrus. That was his whole thing. It was like, just like, let's do that and set things off. That was it. And it comes to an end. They're on a beach, and he puts the gun up to Swan, and you know, this is always one of those things. It was kind of like the subway edit where it's like that obvious, you know, jump cut. But he's about to shoot, and Swan pulls out, you know, he has that little switchblade on him, and he throws it into his hand, and that's when he, like, you know, he knocks the gun out, and then of course Cyrus's people come in, and it's like, sorry, and it's like, all right, we'll take them, and we're out, and that's pretty much how the movie ends. And it's always just like, gangs, that sucks. It was like, yeah, sorry, you know, we killed your leader. You know, that led to a couple other people getting taken out. Cowboy gets hit by a train. Ajax was like losing it, so he got arrested because he was like filling up, like basically trying to like rape this woman who ended up being a cop. So yeah, he got arrested. And it's just like, yeah, we lost members left and right, and we chased throughout the night. It was just madness all the way through because someone blamed us for something that we didn't even do. And it's just like, sorry. And they just take the actual culprits, and it's just like, see ya, and that's it. And then the radio plays, and it's like, sorry, you know, turns out that it was not these guys at all, so here's a song for you. Cool. It's like, that's all I think about. It's just like, wow, they survived. And it's like that awesome ending. It was like, at least something came of it. They weren't just like chased down to the end and just murdered off. But I always think of that where it's just like, it's kind of meant to be like this, especially when they play the music and stuff, and it's like kind of meant to be this sort of uplifting sort of moment where it's like, yeah, they made it out, they survived the night, but then it's like, no, they definitely lost people along the way. It was technically, they only lost like 3 people throughout the whole film, but they only start with like 7. So, you know, it's like, when it's such a tight-knit group, it feels very significant to lose characters along the way, especially with the way the movie is paced out, because it's almost like a horror movie in a sense where it's paced out that they actually lose people along the way, because they get through so many situations, and it's like, okay, they made it through. They lost, you know, they lost in the very beginning. You lose your leader. It was like, wow, that was, you know, early on. But they go through so much, and then they get to that subway station, and that's when they lose Cowboy, and he gets killed by the train. And it's like, okay, a decent amount of time passes after. I think it's a shorter amount of time, but they're chased by the baseball Furies, and that's when Ajax ends up getting arrested. It's like, they do lose people, you know, along the way, but it's so paced out, you just keep thinking like, all right, well, they survived this, and this, and this, and then someone dies. And then it's like, well, they survived 2 more things, and everything's just, it's crazy, but everyone makes it out. And then he just ends up getting arrested because he was filling up on a chick who was a cop. And it's just like, that was kind of one of the things when I first saw the movie. It was like, oh, I really didn't expect any other people to go. It was a lot like a horror movie where it's paced out like, okay, you lose someone super early on. It's like, that's the first person Jason kills. And, you know, it's different because obviously it's not a horror movie, so you don't really expect them to keep, you know, getting knocked off. And it's like, you don't know who it's going to be because it's so random. Like, it's all these gangs, and some gangs, like I said, the Baseball Furies, are bigger than other gangs. Some gangs, they'll chase them down in buses and stuff. So it's like, it's hard to tell when the next bad thing is going to happen. But every time they keep making it, it's like, okay, they're good. They're closer and closer, and then they lose somebody. And then they're closer and closer, and then they lose someone again. And it just, you know, gets down to the end of the film. And I really love that about it. And I love that pacing for it. It's because you kind of don't expect it a little bit because, like I said, it goes on for so long, and also it's not a horror movie. You don't assume, you know, it'll come down to like one guy surviving at the end. So you don't really know as things go on, as they start to lose people. It's like, how many people are going to be lost next? Is it going to be 1? Is it going to be 2 or 3? How fast is it going to happen? Like, you know, this is the set piece here. They lose somebody. Will they lose somebody in the next one? And I like that idea. And I always have, like, even when I watch it, I of course know what's going to happen. I still have those feelings for that movie, and it's just very interesting. And I've always loved it. I always loved the movie because of that, and just looking at it on its own, the phrases that are so insanely famous. It's so weird. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's so insanely famous, but I always wonder how many people really know that, especially now. Like, I'm 24, so it's totally different. It's one of those things where it's like, it's just a saying. Can you dig it? It's just a saying, and I don't think, people don't really say nearly as much as they did before, and Stay on Target, same thing, because that's Star Wars. But it's like, do people know what that's from? Star Wars is one thing, but The Warriors was kind of like a cult classic, which is unfortunate because I love that movie so much. I wish it was like way more popular than it currently is. And I know there was news that there was supposed to be like a reboot and stuff, and that never came to fruition. I would love to see someone do like a TV show of the Warriors or something like that. I would love for it to be like super dark. That would be awesome, because some things happened in the movie that they probably wouldn't do if it was like, oh, it's on NBC. It's like, no, that probably wouldn't play out too well on NBC. But if it was like, Netflix, which is kind of what I heard before, is that maybe it would be like a Netflix thing. I would love that if they did it, basically just do Daredevil minus superpowers. You pretty much have the Warriors. Like, you add more main characters, take out the superpower element, you basically have the Warriors, and just make it about running. And that's pretty much it. Take out all the intrigue of espionage and supervillains and this and that, and just go, these guys are really bad, and they chase these guys who technically are pretty bad because they're in the gang. They're just seen as the good guys because they're like the main characters, and plus they are, blamed for something they didn't do, so they're definitely considered better than the actual like crappy dudes who like set them up and everything. So it's just interesting. It's like, technically everybody's a bit of an a-hole. HX pretty much exemplifies that as he goes through like the whole movie. That's like his thing. He's like the douchebag guy who's like, I just want to beat a bunch of people up and this and that. So that's, he kind of exemplifies like, no, remember, everyone's a gang member. They are not good people technically, but you root for the Warriors because they're the main characters. And plus, they are blamed for something they didn't do this time, but they are all criminals. It's gangs. But really love the movie. I can't wait to watch it again. Like I said, I unfortunately didn't get to actually watch it before doing this review, but I still remember so much of it. It's such a simple movie, it's hard to forget. Like, you have other movies where it's like, oh, this thing happened between these two characters. It's just like, they go to a meeting, the main guy dies, he wants to put all the gangs together, he gets killed, they get blamed, and then they run. It is a very simple concept to a film, but it's done so well. Simple action sequences, they're either chased, they're mostly chased. They only really fight during like the bathroom sequence, and they have to fight the baseball furies because they run for like a million miles, and it's like, okay, I'm tired, it's time to throw some punches because my legs are done. So they don't really fight that often, really. So it's kind of interesting the way it plays out. It is mostly dialogue when you like really look at it all together. It's action because it's just that intensity. Once again, it has these odd elements kind of horror movies where it's like, I don't really know what will happen next, because they have, instead of one supernatural villain, they have realistic villains, but it's like a dozen dudes in a gang or something crazy like that. Or even when they go up against the Thin Lizzies, I want to say is the name of the female group, and it's like, oh cool, like these chicks are all over us and stuff, and then boom, that switchblade comes out and that gun comes out, and they're just like, oh crap, it's time to go, and they're like punching their way out of a group of women who have are whipping out shotguns and knives on them all of a sudden. And it's really cool. And it's just little stuff like that. It's just like, man, they have these crazy moments where it's like, finally, a little bit of rest, and then craziness again. And that's like how the whole movie plays out. Like, when is it truly going to be restful for them? And what's that next crazy intense thing, right around the corner? So, love the movie, always. Highly recommend you check out the game if you happen to be, a big gamer. Even if you're not a big gamer, I think you'll really love the game if you like the movie. Like I said, it's done by the people who did Grand Theft Auto. It's like Grand Theft Auto Light. Like, you don't get to drive cars. That's like the one thing. You run around, you walk around. It's like the movie. You only get to walk and run everywhere you go. And it's super fun. It's co-op. You just beat people up. You can break into stores. Once again, they're gangs, so they don't do great stuff. They have like tagging battles where you can like tag places, kind of like what Rembrandt does. So they have that as part of actual missions and stuff like that. You interact with other gangs that you don't really get to see nearly as much in the movie. So that's another thing where it's like, everything they do in the game, they make like a whole new chunk of story that goes perfectly with the film. And I highly recommend you guys check it out. Obviously, it's a PS2 game, so you can get it either super cheap, or you can buy it online, because it is on like the PlayStation Store. I would assume it's on the Xbox Live Network as well. If you're that into the Warriors, I truly recommend it. But I'd love to know what you guys thought about The Warriors, if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it and I just spoiled like everything that happened, it doesn't matter. You can watch it, and I I promise you, you will enjoy the film. Like, if you even remotely think it's interesting from what I've said, you will like The Warriors, because it's freaking great. So, I'd love to know what you guys think about it, if you have seen it. If not, let me know what you just thought about everything that I've said. If you have any questions or anything like that, definitely let me know. If you guys have any suggestions for what I should do for Throwback Thursday reviews, definitely let me know. I kind of have like my whole month set up now, because when I was doing my Evil Dead review, I was like, oh yeah, I have literally all 4 Evil Dead films on Blu-ray, so I guess I'll just do those for the next month. So, any suggestions you guys have, I'll probably do them after I do the next 3 Evil Dead movies. But I will definitely get to them, so if you have any films that you think I should do for Throwback Thursday reviews, I have like no real limit. It would be like, I guess anything like 5 years and older, or I guess 10 years. I said 5 years in my last video too, but I think 10 years is better. So if it's a decade or older, definitely let me know. Like, I think The Matrix, I'll probably end up doing all 3 of those movies at some point as well. Because, you know, they're so big, and I never reviewed The Matrix, but I love The Matrix films. At least the first 2. I'm okay with the second one, or I'm okay with the third one. I know everyone hates anything that's not the first movie. I actually think the second one's the best one. That's just me personally, not just action. But like I said, if you guys have any requests, or just anything you think I should check out, any classic films, definitely let me know. Anything in the vein of Warriors that you think I would enjoy, that's a classic film as well, cult classic, whatever, definitely let me know. And like I said, of course, I want to know what you guys thought about The Warriors, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.